This is Learn and Do with Peter on May 6th, 2024. And we're looking at new notes and last meeting's notes so far. We got a strong vote. The only vote right now in the HackMD is to look for an image. I'm going to say generator.
Yeah,
The LLM is.
didn't know the word.
So I'm a little bit out of date, but basically you want Stable Diffusion, and Stable Diffusion is automatic 1111. Or there's a slightly newer one that sounded okay too. So let's consult the website and see if we can find automatic 1111. And then the reason we're doing that is because that'll give us the name of the other one. So I think this is the right name. Let me double check. Yep. And then, even better way to do it. So the reason I'm not finding this exact thing in a search is because we have a lot of transcripts or summaries. We have summaries, but the summaries are machine generated, so it's not going to spell this properly. And I wonder, actually, maybe there's some chance I said A111 and it picked it up. But if I do draw things, draw things is kind of the choice for Mac. So you can see that this is getting kind of useful. If we had a handy transcript for this, I haven't been posting transcripts for various reasons, but if we had a transcript for this, we could probably find out more. Let's do it a different way. Automatic 111 versus Comfy UI.
It sounds like you need my new Jankifier.
And I'm sorry, I've forgotten what it does.
It cleans up Zoom transcripts.
Aha, nice. You and I should talk more. I've got a whole like Zoom chat and transcript kind of like set of stuff I'm working on.
Well,
But yes, you're totally right. So I think those are kind of your top choices here, Kenneth. Automatic 1111 is the old standard, and it's really good compared to, Comfy UI is newer, Focus is newer. These all three are Stable Diffusion based.
Those are all stable diffusion and very, very much the same as Midjourney, but maybe without guardrails. Is that what you're saying?
Nope. Stable Diffusion and Midjourney are different beasts, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm going to make a new section here in the HackMD, which is local image generator on Windows. And also let me grab this here. I'm gonna do, let me talk real quick about web links. If you put a bare web link in HackMD, it'll work over here, which is great. When it goes to the website builder, this website, the website builder has a preference to have, it won't linkify it unless it has angle brackets around it. So a lot of times I'll put angle brackets. And then the other thing to do is kind of like this, square brackets for the link text and round brackets for the parentheses for the URL. And those need to be next to each other. It's a little bit hard to see there, but. So none of those is particularly readable, unfortunately, but but what are you gonna do? Web links aren't particularly readable. It's kind of a bug with web links, not with Markdown. Okay, so let's maybe let's dig into this a little bit more because it's a kind of interesting topic. Let's get back to this Reddit thing and read it real quick. So this is good to know. You can do a lot more with Comfy UI. A1111 is, I don't think it's easy at all. I mean, it's as easy as it could be kind of, but anyway. I don't know if it's worth going a lot farther. That's probably the like 90% answer that you want. Let me show you draw things on my Mac real quick, which
Let me
helps
interject.
you.
What I
Yeah,
don't,
go ahead.
what I don't want is on Ideogram, I told it I wanted something, and it was fairly innocuous. It was a horror movie kind of thing where there was a large eye and the text, "I'm not afraid. I'm pretty sure this is all a nightmare." And then my signature at the bottom.
Yep.
3 out of the 4 responses I got were not safe or probably unsafe or whatever that guardrail message is. And I don't understand how any of them were eclipsed, much less all
Yeah.
3 out of 4. And I don't,
Well, one thing with any of the generators, I don't use Ideogram very much. And I'm stuck on Midjourney. It's kind of funny. I've got big eyes here, as it happens from recently. Not that these are scary eyes. I do get scary stuff too, which I don't like, but this is Midjourney. Any of the image generators, I wouldn't give up after the first try. I'd probably give up after the third try, but just try it again. All of them, the guardrails are a little, they kind of need them to be a little bit more conservative than not.
well,
I was going to ask Kenneth, did that happen after it tried to create images or after you just put in your prompt and
Great
it
question.
just, yeah, because sometimes it will like your prompt, but then try to make images, and then the images it realizes were sort of unintentionally not good, so that it says, sorry, I can't show you the images because, they're against the rules.
in Ideogram, basically, as far as I understand it, you put in your prompt. There is no, I've never run into a guardrail that says you can't put in this prompt. All that happens is you put in your prompt and then it comes back with probably unsafe and a teddy bear. And
So it didn't even try to make an image, right?
it did well. Yeah, I mean it may have tried to make it and detected it.
RJ's question is there's 2 places where that might happen. One of them is you put in the prompt and right away it says, yeah, I'm not even going to try. Another thing that happens is you can put in the prompt and it like makes an image and then it goes, yeah, I'm not going to even show you that.
Yeah, that's
image
the latter.
because...
The latter
Okay,
is
it's the latter.
what's happening. Go ahead.
Dan.
Hey, Kenneth, have you tried a little bit of parallel experimentation, say, do the same prompt in Midjourney, a simple one, but that one that Midjourney is blocking, and then try it in any of the Stable Diffusion interfaces? Are you getting the same level of guardrail in both cases, kind of?
I've tried Midjourney. I've tried Dolly.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried Ideogram. Ideogram was far and away producing closer to what I liked because it actually spelled words with the right letters. And that was important to me because I had typographical art where the ink was running down the face and that kind of thing. And so I did do some checking with Midjourney, and I did do some checking with Dolly, but mostly I just immediately said no, no. I don't even want to try it. Iterative is just not even close.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was just wondering if you'd noticed any particular difference in how tight the guardrails are and
Dolly and Midjourney did not give me any kind of kickback on the guardrails. I mean, this was a pretty banal kind of this is a pretty banal kind of image. I mean, you know, there's no blood,
Mhm.
there's no nudity, there's no violence. You know, it's just
The guardrails are not very smart, you know, and they can be conservative. Another thing to do is to find a place where people discuss prompts.
Mhm.
You know, I know Midjourney best. If you find the Discord for the image generator you're working on, and go talk about prompts, you'll get a lot of help.
well, there are
The
also some other things that I want to do that I
Yeah,
know. I mean,
yeah. So the short answer is one of these. Comfy UI looks actually complicated. Well, it looks like a pipeline builder, actually.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
don't even know
nifty.
if you want that. But some people were saying that that Comfy UI is a lot better than, you know, the other thing. Let me show you Draw Things real quick. So Draw Things is just a Mac app. iPad works on iPad too. This is what it looks like, and this is leftover junk from some time we were playing with this before. Any of the Stable Diffusion generators have a lot of controls compared to something like Midjourney. Midjourney, it does have some controls, but you know, basically you type a prompt in, and you can fiddle around with a few controls. There aren't too many, and then you press go. Stable Diffusion is a lot more of a thing where you have to get good at it. You need a lot more. You need a lot more kind of. I don't want to say fine tuning because that means something else in our world. You need a lot more kind of guidance and construction of the way that it handles the prompt and things like that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You get a lot of control that way, and you can do lots of different things. And so it's definitely worth, like, if you're not satisfied with the the cloud ones, definitely you should try to get into Stable Diffusion. But you know, you pick different models, and there's a ton of different models depending on what you're trying to do. Just that right there, just picking the right model is probably super helpful. And a lot of these examples are probably like if I had picked a different, that one's okay. This is probably old too. I don't know what model this is. Oh, this is XDSL. Um, uh,
XDSL is the sorry, XDSL is the one that just has like a tenth of the processing and therefore less fidelity in a single image. Is that
it
true?
has what processing?
A tenth of the processing, but
I think XL stands for extra large. Actually, it's one of the bigger ones.
okay.
But there's a whole bunch of XDXLs too. Um, uh, so a good thing to do when you're playing around with Stable Diffusion is to find a community in Discord or the web or something like that, and um, just picking a model, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually makes a huge difference. That's a whole exploration right there. And especially depending on what you want, like if you want people versus places, or more anime versus more photographic. If you get started off on the wrong model, you'll just be like poking around forever and not getting very far. So you pick the model, you pick a bunch of things that help control the image, and you can even swap in different upscalers and samplers and all that kind of stuff. All these things make a ton of difference in your outputs. And so whatever whatever interface you use. So this is there's conceptually there's two parts to any of the Stable Diffusion things. There's the back end engine, Stable Diffusion, and then a model behind that, I guess. But the back end of Stable Diffusion is there, and then there's a front end. And this application right here is a Mac application that serves as the front end. Automatic is a web-based front end. It's got a local server running on your computer, and you talk to that through a web browser. At least last time I played with it. But it presents the same kind of screen with the same variety of controls, maybe in a different order. So it's a thing where you kind of have to coordinate all the. It's a lot more like flying a plane than driving a compact car or something like that. Midjourney is like getting into a Lexus. Running Stable Diffusion is more like running a plane, where it's like you need to adjust all kinds of things and know what they're doing, or it just won't work very well. Won't crash, but it won't work very well. Definitely worth playing with though. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds. If I can get that to work, I think I'd like to try that.
Yeah, you should definitely go for it.
Well,
111 is the old faithful focus. It looks like this looking at this Comfy AI at least. That picture there showed a pipeline, and there's this looks complicated, but you kind of need like it's actually better to get a picture of what's going on and be able to organize it the way that you want it, instead of having somebody do this architecture in the back end, and it's like, shoot, I wish they had routed the information a slightly different way. With a pipeline builder like this, you could just get it to work right. Probably you can also load standardized pipelines and stuff like that. So even though this looks scary, it looks really useful and not that scary to me. So experiment and create complex Stable Diffusion workflows without needing to code anything. What happens really quick with Stable Diffusion is you kind of max out your you run into kind of a glass ceiling of like, shoot, I wish whoever set this pipeline up, the default pipeline, I'm going to have to take the output of this and feed it back in. So if you just do that in the interface, it would be a lot easier. Should be lots of fun.
so
Let's look at
you're
focus.
recommending as my first stab to use Comfy UI.
Nope. What I'm recommending, or what I would recommend, I haven't said it yet. What I would do is go to YouTube and type in something like this, all three of them, and I would watch about an hour's worth of different videos, like 5 or 10 videos for an hour at 2x, and kind of get the point of it, right? Being able to, it's animation is not that far away from the mainstream of Stable Diffusion. So this is a thing called ControlNet, where you can say, I want to generate something, but I want it to be this shape. And then ControlNet is kind of like one way to, this one is using a pose thing. You can also do sketches. You can do, I think maybe images. There's a couple different ways to drive the shape of the output. Anyway, what I would do is watch, an hour's worth of this kind of stuff. Here's another one, Forge UI. And maybe I wrote that one down already. Web UI Forge. So you may find that, I don't know. Anyway, that's my recommendation. Watch some YouTube videos and maybe you'll find something better. or maybe you'll get the idea and, pick what you want to do.
It's been a long time since I pushed GitHub Go. How difficult is this going to be for my old brain?
Learning Stable Diffusion is not, it's not super easy, I have to say.
I'm talking about to
Or,
install it.
yeah, and I think, uh, another thing you'll run into is that because these are all open source, I think that's true. You'll also find like 6 different ways to do the same thing. And the 1 or 2 will be great. Actually, probably you'll find like 40 different ways to do something, like install it. So you'll find different installers even. Installing these things is not necessarily super easy. And then it's just you kind of follow the steps. It's kind of straightforward. Conversely, draw things. The Mac, there's a couple on the Mac. It's not only draw things. There's a couple more. It's all one application, and the whole thing just installs like an app. Not to make you jealous, but there's also a little bit of, it's going to be interesting trying to figure out what are the best. So, this is the official repo here. I can tell that because of this name here. I think that's probably a reasonable thing to say. So then the official repo stuff may or may not be the easiest thing to install. So then there are other, it's going to be a little tricky. Stable-diffusion-art is not the official one, even though it sounds pretty official. So this is somebody who's put up a bunch of, they're selling a course and a book and stuff like that, which is great. But you'll have to learn like which of these to trust and which not to trust. Just because it says Stable Diffusion Art doesn't mean that you can trust it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. And then, kind of learning the ropes of who you can trust and who you can't trust. I don't even know why. I don't think this is really sensitive, but Civitas is a really, this is a well-known site. I guess it's got hosted generation, maybe. They
Mhm.
might host Stable Diffusion and let you generate stuff. But there's also some, documentation for doing it by yourself. Anyway, do the next thing, watch some YouTube, and then maybe on the 16th, next call, we can talk about it some more. Let me drop the screen share for a little bit and we can talk like people. I'm going to look at last session's notes, which I think there's a link. Yeah. On the HackMD, there's a link to previous notes on the website. And let me look at that. One of the things that I carried away from last session was Kenneth's interesting question. Hey, Pete, we did lots of learning, or at least, Pete showing, but we didn't do a lot of doing. So maybe today, maybe not. I was thinking it would be fun to actually do stuff rather than just watch Pete showing stuff. So otherwise, top of mind for me is a little bit of local language manager. It'd be fun to play with LM Studio. I haven't done much with it, which is either kind of a good thing or a bad thing. We may have a few people here. I know Kenneth might like doing Obsidian, maybe Dan. Coding with LLMs, that's me and RJ. Midjourney is always fun for me, and I know at least Claire would find that cool. So what should we work on?
I want a
Or you-
negative prompt of Obsidian.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd be happy to mix it up a little and have some Midjourney. Don't mind dipping into Obsidian. But also, if you can do a little bit around coding with LLMs without, overemphasizing for those who aren't interested, I'd find that kind of interesting.
Okay. And Dan's got a Jenkifier he wants to get published too. So maybe we can walk through that. Paul, were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say, I like talking about Midjourney and whatever else you can come up with. I'm all ears.
Cool. Okay. Let's save Midjourney stuff towards the end. Let's do Dan, do you want to get your Jenkifier published?
Yeah, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind showing it to people first so they know what it's
Okay.
doing. That's okay. It wouldn't take long.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also, I've got 5 or 6, five or maybe so, five draft Jenkifiers hanging out in my copy of the website, and I'd like to either get them out or delete them. Some of them are deletable. So maybe we'll do a little bit of that too. So my idea here is that we're going to look at the publishing process for Jenkifiers a little bit, maybe do a little bit of thinking about how they work, and maybe a little bit of thought about how to document them or how to make them. That kind of edges us a little bit towards programming with a chatbot too. So Dan, you want a demo?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if anything that's truly as boring as this counts as a Jenkifier, but something I've
For me.
found I often end up doing is download a Zoom transcript. I want to review it visually, but I also
Nice.
need to dump it into an LLM at some point.
Yep.
And yet I find him hard to read as a human, just because of all the embedded bits. Bear with me. I'll just show you how this works with a little short bit that I'm going to paste in from what really is just a raw Zoom transcript. So it's the usual thing, just from my work. You've got lines, you've got date stamps, time stamps. Often the same person speaking repeats. And what the Jenkifier does, and I hope it's working for us, is it combines that all up.
Yep.
And gives me something that feels a little bit more like a script for a play or something. It combines up any multiple run of one person speaking into a long paragraph. Gives me them bold. I asked it to format it to a maximum of 600 pixels wide. So it just gives me a much more readable view of a meeting if I'm dealing with the transcript in some way.
Yep, it's beautiful.
And the reason I wasn't sure if it would count as a Jenkifier is because I did a little bit of expert prompting, if I might just show you that a little bit. So I always feel that the whole point of Jenkifierness is very minimal, very clean. But I went into it a little bit more because I knew exactly what I wanted, and I did the kind of usual LLM
Is it
thing
easy to
with-
make that even a little bit bigger? Awesome, thanks.
So I told it what it is, and I told it what I wanted. Then I picked up some of your kind of standard Jankifier text here.
Yep.
But I had done a bit of work back and forth with just using a large language model, well, just using GPT-4 to clean up transcripts.
Yep.
So I knew some of the things I'd want to ask it. I listed them out there. Picked up your don't show an alert, download. And I even gave it a sample just because I wanted it to be clear. So that's a bit more than you'd want to do for a typical Jankifier. And then I went through and tweaked it in a couple of runs. It gave me a download, it flowed full width, it didn't line wrap, so I asked it to correct that. Be no more than 600 pixels wide, center in the HTML page. It tried that, but it didn't really get it. So I fell back on the fact that years ago I learned some HTML and I looked at the code it was generating and just asked it to try a couple different approaches. And that cleaned it up really nicely. Then I followed your instructions for adding front and back matter to the file. So,
Sweet.
but I think it's certainly useful for a bit of a transcript. I never tried dumping a full hour-long session in. I don't know if it'll hit a limit or something, but it was kind of fun to build. And
Yeah, it looks really fun. I while you were talking, I've done similar coding, but it turns out all of my stuff has been for Zoom chats, and mostly I think I've been doing it by hand in Python. So
Mhm.
so it just like I didn't realize you could just Jankify the heck out of it. You could just tell ChatGPT. So all over again, that writing code with an LLM is a really nice approach. And you did a
Okay,
great job
great.
prompting it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm sure your code may be cleaner or more sophisticated
Mm,
by hand, but
yeah, I don't know. Another interesting thing you did, I think I've gone back and forth. There are times when I like stay in the same conversation and try to guide it, and you did a great job of it. Sometimes I get frustrated with that, and I take the prompt that I've gotten a prompt, and then I need more tweaks, and I just start a new conversation. I just start with a bigger prompt.
Mhm.
I think both of those have their pluses and minuses. So I think it's worth trying one or the other if you're getting frustrated.
I find if I'm processing long runs of text, for sure, where I might begin to run into I forget what they call the window, the
The context window, yeah.
context window, it can often help to kind of summarize in a new chat. But
Yeah.
for this,
The
it was
context
helpful
window
enough to
is a lot
use.
bigger than it used to be. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that was my first and only Jankifier so far, and
this is
it was fun.
beautiful. Um, so so in a good way, you've kind of bent the definition a little bit. I certainly have done that thing where I've gotten a more complicated prompt than just the quickie, which I think is okay. The other thing is different is you're not making something to jam back into an image generator, which is part of
Mm.
the whole deal, how we got Jankifier started. But I really like what you've got. Um, so maybe do you want to let's spend a few more minutes and try to get it on the website if that sounds okay.
Sure.
Do you want to put it in GitHub yourself, or do you want to send it to me and I'll put it into GitHub?
I've sent it to you in the AI Salon chat.
Okay.
And because I really all I have ever done in GitHub is open my account there and put a little bit of bio info. I've never done a commit. I think you'd go faster if you demo it.
Okay. Um, so let me bring up AI Salon, and I'm going to do this off screen real quick.
Mhm. Or if
And
it's
then
faster, I can
I'll
just email it.
download. No,
Yeah.
I'll download it here. Okay, so let me share my screen. I think I know, I know I've actually said this. We don't have to be GitHub experts, but being able to do a few little things with GitHub is not such a bad thing. So, and then I guess doing it here, you can also kind of see if it's like, it's like, oh yeah, I could try to learn some of that, or oh no. Pate's convinced me that I don't ever need to learn any GitHub, and this just clinches it. So I think it's worth going through it. I think this is only going to take a couple minutes, and it's worth doing live, and you can kind of see what it looks like. It's funny, you can see I don't even go to GitHub enough to like clear these things. And then I look to, I've got these are both Zoom chat parsers I've got that must be open source. I've got one or two that are not open source too, but these ones are. But they're both chat. They're neither one of them is transcript. Okay, so what I did is downloaded Dan's file to downloads, and it's right here. So let me open that, and oops, that was quick. I was expecting a directory, but there's only one file, so it doesn't need a directory. Okay, so now let me get that downloads directory back. Basically, all we need to do is get this file copied over to the local copy, my local copy of the website, which the front end for me is this Obsidian thing here. And here's the Jankofires directory. So I'm going to open that in Finder because Finder is kind of easier to copy from other places. So you can see all the other Jankofires here. And all I need to do is drag and drop it there. And then this is the Jankofire directory. And then there's a page called Jankofires, which is kind of like the table of contents for Jankofires. So a thing that we need to do, and maybe we'll do a tiny bit of it here, maybe we won't, is I need more headers here, more sections for this. But let's not do that right now. I think I
You could always
will.
come up with a name for boring, non-image related Jankofires. Snoozifiers or something.
I don't know. It's Zoom transcript management is about as exciting as it gets. It's about as exciting as image generators. So I changed that header, usable image generator Jankofires. I guess I will use a boring name, utility Jankofires.
Yeah.
So now, because I'm in Obsidian, Obsidian is really good with autocomplete. I think, so what it's showing me here, the way to make a local link, a link inside the same website is double square brackets. And just typing double square brackets, it does a couple things. One of them is it closes it right away. So you need it on both sides. So it just put the ending ones right away. The other thing it does is it shows me the most recent files. And maybe this is one of the things that I want to link to. And yes, it is actually. So it's right there. So all I need to do is click on it and then describe it a little bit. I am going to cheat and copy this for the description. And I'm going to shorten this easy to read text. Looks okay. And then there's I guess inside the Jenkifier directory, there's also a checklist that we might look at, but Dan says he's got it set up, and I think that's good enough. So that's pretty much it. So you can see over here, Jenkifiers is modified. There's a new file called Zoom Transcript Cleaner. I'll make a commit note here, added. And I'm going to use the easy button here, the sync button, rather than, oops. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I'm working with an individual student, and and she's a glutton for punishment. She loves tech stuff. She's in hardware more than software, so the tech stuff that she loves is totally different. But we went through excruciating detail on what each of these buttons was, and I told her, don't use this one because it's easy, but sometimes too much happens. And what happened was all my draft Jenkifiers, which I've been carefully not checking in, are checked in now, which is fine, but they're not ready for publication. They're kind of junky.
Can I ask you what add-on to, if you're using some kind of an add-on to Obsidian here to handle the Git integration? Is that a...
Yeah, this is called, it used to be called Obsidian Git. Now it's just called Git.
Okay, that shouldn't be too hard for me
it's
to find.
It's a community plugin, and it's right here. It's the
Excellent.
8th one right now.
Great.
It works really well, except that I wish, as a person who's explained the buttons here to many non-technical people, I wish they were in a different order.
Mhm.
And I made that wish actually in the repo, that this is an open source plugin thing. And it's funny, the front end of it is not the most interesting part. It's kind of the back end where it's interfacing with Git. But anyway, you have a particular order you do Git things in, and they're not in the right order. They're actually clustered functionally rather than in workflow order. And it's just confusing. And I asked the guy to fix it, and he's like, no, I like it the way it is. It's better this way. So
I
whatever.
noticed that the other day and I was like, what is this?
So so now it's on the website, I'm sure, because we've been talking and talking. Let's look at the Jenkifier page on the website, and you'll see utility Jenkifiers and the Zoom Transcript Cleaner. There you go.
Great. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. This is awesome. And then let's also look at the website here. So I said I made a mistake with my commit by pressing the super button instead of like doing the actual like little things I should have done. 3 buttons. I should have pushed 3 buttons instead of just 1. Or I should have thought about it at least, and I could have been a little bit more careful. It's whenever you've got something under Git control, it's not a big deal if you make a mistake, because it's easy to back up and redo it, or just keep. Anyway, these are all the changes I've made to the website in reverse chronological order. So if there's a mistake or something got lost or something got changed a while ago, and we've been continuing to kind of push forward and make new changes, we can always go back to whatever change got made here. And check it out and undo it and fix it if we need to. So the problem was I put in all these extra ones.
I played with a few of the Jenkifiers for the images, and one of them I could see some utility to, but mostly it just seemed like a goofy thing to do, and I didn't see any benefit from it at all. Is that because I'm blind?
No, I think that's probably a reasonable description. There's many of the Jenkifiers have the same kind of format. Adjective, adverbs, cats, commas, even S's, Frankify, Frogify, Numberify, Raccoonify. All of these add a few choice words in the theme, right? Let me grab a prompt. I have really boring prompts right now in my Midjourney, which except the mirrors one, those are cool. Not complaining or whatever, but trying to find one that doesn't completely bore me. This one's not too bad.
Kenneth, I think that Jenkifiers was Peter's stealth way to get people to try to learn to do coding. I really sincerely believe that. And I like it because
Very true.
even though I'm not a Jenkifier, watching Peter do it reminded me, yeah, I can do that. I should be doing it. I already knew I could do it, but I just forgot. So ever since then, I've been
totally,
coding like crazy.
totally right, RJ. RJ has got it. I actually do appreciate that. I needed some Jenkifying actually for my Midjourney prompts. So this is Raccoonifier. You know, it puts in a lot of raccoon words, which is either like stunningly useful. I think Cindy probably thinks this is the most useful Jenkifier here, with maybe the exception of Frankify, Frankifier, which is hot dog words. And it's fun to do raccoon words and hot dog words, of course. So Kenneth, to your point, maybe this is useful to you. Hot dog words is maybe useful, maybe not. So a lot of them are kind of the same, and interleaver is actually interesting, taking two prompts and zippering them together. This one does interesting things. Chopper, I think, really changes a prompt. Lexiconstructor is really good for making long random strings, which are good to do different things with. Sometimes I take parts of these and use them as prompts. Sometimes I take the whole thing. I have not been super happy with the Lexiconstructor results. This scramble the first 25 characters helps it, but this is a descendant of another approach I've got, which I like. And this approach didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but it's still really useful. Taking this and then Jenkifying this. So one of the things we've gotten to with Jenkifiers, the image generator ones, is you press one button and it automatically copies it to the clipboard. This one, these are each separate, and if you click on one of these, you'll get that prompt on your clipboard. But this one goes on it automatically. So then when you've got one thing in your clipboard, you can go to the next one, maybe Chopper, and then just do paste, and you've got that one that came from Lexiconstructor, and so then you can do something with that. So this cut out every fourth character, and then copied that to the clipboard so we could take it someplace else and continue doing that, or we could just try to generate with it. A lot of them don't change them, even the ones that aren't the just insert a couple words. Even some of those don't do much, but some of them really do. Chopper is good. Letterific is really good. Lexiconstructor is kind of weird, but reverse text is kind of good, except for DALL-E.
I can see interesting experiments still to do with Jenkifiers. It'd be interesting to see if we could create ones that'll insert reflectivity, symmetry into a prompt that it wouldn't otherwise have. Or maybe a series that will allow you to just freestyle your favorite 20 styles in a sense by adding, just depending on the very boring normal commands that I always forget.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm doing a bunch of tarot card images, and it has a little string of things that have to be added to the image. I could make one that would add that, another one that would do photorealist, and all based on the same prompt, and then cut and paste what you wanted. So
It'd be really nice to have one that did random stuff and then had a place that added some static, just static stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, just
Um,
as
Paul's here
a way to split the
actually,
difference. Yeah.
yeah. Paul's drops different art styles in pretty frequently. And that works pretty well, actually. I don't know what I forget kind of what the sorter one does. But the abstract one is pretty good. I should have turned on fast. I forgot. So there's the Frankifier, worked great. The Raccoonifier didn't work as well. The Raccoonifier, sometimes they turn into cats, which, because of the words, Frankifier worked great. And a lot of these where it's pretty random, the prompts are pretty random. I actually really like those because you can get a lot of cool stuff that way. A lot of varied stuff, maybe.
Mhm.
Have to do a shout out to Vicky. So for, I don't know, this is the first month ever I ran out of hours on a 30-hour plan, and I got it down to 0. All the other months I've gotten to my renewal date, which is the 8th. Every month on the 8th, I get my 30 hours refreshed. I'm like, Pete, you shouldn't do that. You should run out your hours and like get to empty right at the 8th. And so somehow I was using it a lot, and then I accidentally left fast on for a while and I ran out my hours. So I've been doing the bonus hour thing, which is really useful. So shout out to Vicky for pointing out that Rooms is
I've
cool
done
too.
that forgetting too. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, so definitely definitely rate images for if you're interested in the extra hours. And it's a good way actually to also, I think with Midjourney, it's good to go to Explore and kind of just see. Every time I go to Explore, there's stuff that I would never ever have generated, and I get pretty like random and all over the place. But there's always a style or a subject or something that I wouldn't have done. So it's super useful to go over to Explore. Rating images kind of gets you a light version of that. You get to see a bunch of images serially instead of all in parallel, which it's still useful. Every once in a while, I'll bump into one when I'm rating images. And um, I know on desktop, I don't know how I would do this on mobile, but on desktop, if you hold Command on Mac and probably Control on Windows, you can open that image. And there are times certainly I'm rating. I do it for about 10 minutes. I haven't even watched the clock. I do it until I get bored, kind of, and then maybe I do it in another time again in the day. And around 5:30 Pacific, maybe a little bit before you'll get your bonus hour if you were in the top 2,000 that day. So it's pretty easy to do. While we're here and we're kind of interested in Midjourney, this is something maybe you all do already and maybe you don't. If you're in Explore, and I'm gonna like definitely concentrate on the web UI now because you only need a few images, 100 images, something like that. So just figure out how to get on the web. Same thing here. If you press Command on Mac, probably Control on Windows, you can open a particular image. And then you can also, a thing that I like to do on an interesting image, it's like, I wonder what else they do. I couldn't tell that was a map until I got to the bigger one, but so you can poke around. It's nice to go from all the images to zoom into a set, one that you like a lot, and then maybe you can look at the person who makes it, or the other thing you can do is hit search, and then it looks for images that are like that one. And then this is a really good way. these are all too much the same kind of. Let me try that again. This is a pretty good one. So this is a good way to go, there's a kind of a look I'm looking for, or I'm bored with the looks I've got. And so, you're like, okay, I've got my fill of toucans, but this style, this is rocking, right? So then you can see what prompt they're using and etc. It's kind of interesting thinking about the way Midjourney really likes that people are working together, whether the people like it or not, or whether they even know or not. So I could use her image, use it as a remix image or use a style. I don't do that because it seems too much like cheating. But I will, and I even like their whole prompt. I won't use the whole prompt, but botanical abundance is a thing that I've never thought of using. So I can imagine grabbing that. This is not what I would grab if I was trying to get something similar to this image, but these are just interesting phrases. And it's kind of funny. I lost it. It's kind of funny. There are times when instead of writing it down in a notebook or my Obsidian vault, I'll just generate an image with a few of the things that I want to come back to someday. And I'll go, yeah, it's going to go in my history, and I'll find it later.
You can do the same thing with ideogram, and they make it really easy to remix or to copy the description of it, which is not necessarily the prompt for it.
Yep.
And I find a lot of times, and you can also just get the prompt. You can just say copy prompt, and I find that there'll be someone will come up with an amazing way of doing
Yep.
broad brushstroke watercolor or something like that.
Yep.
And
It's a super
I'll
good
say,
way to learn.
yeah, I'll say I want to do the same style, but I want to do it with a boxer or whatever. I'm trying to come up with a Gen Z warrior meme. It's a watercolor boxer, and above it says Gen Z warrior, and below it says, "Last century sucked, this century's mine." and I got a lot of benefit from just that, the way she phrased the watercoloring.
Definitely. Yeah.
But it doesn't look anything like the petite romantic woman picture that she originally had. But anyway, I find that ideogram, if words count, and frequently they do, I find that ideogram gives you better results most of the time.
Yeah. If you need words, then yeah, you don't want Midjourney. It's going to be really fascinating when it's probably going to be in like V7 before they get it. But I think now that I think about it, I think the CEO has said that 6.1, I think they're calling it 6.1 is going to work better with text, but I'm not holding my breath. You said descriptions. It's really interesting to me that Midjourney doesn't do descriptions, but it's easy to get a description from ChatGPT or any of the multimodal ones. I don't know if it's obvious or not, but I use something similar. You can get all kinds of things. you can ask it for, what's the style of this? Give me something like this, but in different colors. Give me a description like you would see in a museum. Um, and then this is a good way to, um, just taking this and I'm just going to put some random thing here and then add that.
Now
It's
run
going to change it.
Jacobier on it.
Yeah.
We're currently on version 6 of Midjourney.
Yeah. 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 V6 is the one. This one looks a lot like the original. Actually, that's interesting. The other thing I thought was interesting is this came out of one of the Jankifiers used to get this one was Paul's with the different art styles. And I remember this was one of the art styles in it mixed in there. Baroque was probably another one. So it's kind of funny that Dolly picked that, or sorry, ChatGPT picked up, the art style, even though it had no reason or rhyme to. I've got KS set at 50, so that kind of explains. I don't think this one has eyes in it. That's weird. No, there it is. It does. Anyway, I've got my KS set high, which is why the 4 different things look different, and I usually like that, unless it's annoying, and then you turn it off. My other favorite thing to do nowadays is well, this works better when you have a random, like a really random prompt. Oh yeah, this is a fairly random prompt, and this is copied from the previous one. That's not there. I really like doing random prompts, then coming to each image that's interesting. Like, yeah, that one's kind of interesting. This gray one's boring, but if you click style, or sorry, prompt and then style, it copies the prompt and it copies this image for the style, and then you can generate with it. This one would be pretty good too. So prompt, style, go. And there's a similar workflow you can do on your mobile that I like to do. And you get all kinds of interesting things that way. It's harder to do when you've got a non-random prompt because you'll end up getting the same thing. So if I did the same thing on one of these, prompt style, if you've got a random prompt, it really does give you more random results. It's not going to necessarily be the same at all. This one's going to be fairly same because it's got, it's not a random prompt. The other thing that happened here, let me do this again. Go to this one. When I clicked prompt, it carries over. This is already has a style ref. This is the style ref that created this. And it's probably the same thing. This is probably the same prompt actually. So there's a style ref that's kind of embedded in the prompt. And then I'm going to add the style ref from this image, but I have to go in and delete the previous one. You don't have to, but I don't find a lot of utility in having the, the parent generations. It's worth a try, but it's not super useful. So let's go up and see what we've got generated. I guess, so this is already, so this is the style ref, and then this is what it generated. And it's got a random thing, so we're not getting the same things, right? We're getting just a bunch of random stuff. It's when you do that, it picks up the colors a lot. It may or may not pick up textures as much. Style ref, I'm kind of I'm hacking style ref to be the wrong thing, kind of. So it doesn't, it's not very, it doesn't have a lot of fidelity to the style, but it does pick up colors really well, and you get some amazing colors that way. This one, it was a fairly simple style ref. It was this, so you get kind of the same thing. And then this is the one with that same kind of prompt. This is not a specific subject, which is why we got some different kinds of things like quilts and cushions and stuff. But they're, you know, it's pretty close. So. Oops, sorry, RJ, I asked to unmute. I was just clicking. I didn't mean to ask you to unmute. Okay, so that was a tangent off of, I forget what, Jankifiers. So thanks again, Dan. Awesome Jankifier. Bends the definition of Jankifiers a bit, which is something I was hoping to do. So
That actually was a
Um,
very direct, intentional swerve into what does Midjourney do?
it was, yeah. So we've got about 20 minutes. What else should we cover? Does anybody have a show and tell thing on their image generator of choice? They want to show us cool ways to hack their image generator. More questions about Midjourney?
Is there
know,
any
let me-
character continuity using stable diffusion?
The short answer is kind of. I'm not a stable diffusion expert. And we were talking about asking Sam to be a guest later in the month. So maybe Sam would be able to help us. You get a lot of consistency out of the ControlNet stuff. So I know people do that. It's funny, I'm gonna try to BS an answer. I shouldn't. No, I don't know. It's something that people have been really wanting, and there is certain kinds of consistency which people regularly get out of Stable Diffusion nowadays. So, but faces, I don't know so much.
I could comment on that if I could.
Yeah.
So I've been sort of daily, I've been looking at the Civet Discord channel, Discord server, and I've been looking at their, their art show kind of channels where people put stuff that they made, and there's people that are doing a lot of very consistent characters, not only there but also in the Wombo verse, which is for Wombo, which is related to Dream AI, Dream.ai. And people have been doing a lot of consistent characters there. So I think and those are both stable diffusion based. So I think with stable diffusion, you can, if you pick the model that does the kind of character that you want. And if you go to the link that I put into the chat, which is the Civet AI link, they have tutorials there and stuff like that. So that might help you. But I've seen some very stable very stable pictures. I mean, like I'm amazed because people make images of like one person and then they're making another image of the same person in a totally different situation. Like very complicated situations too with other people, sort of movie poster kind of thing, all kinds of variations. So they're really able to keep the face and the character consistent. I was very impressed.
I think part of that is you can blend images, and so if you have the the face from a previous generation, you can blend that with the current generation. And then you can also, with the control net stuff, you can constrain poses and even facial structure and stuff like that. So I like RJ. RJ knows more than I do, but it's a lot more solved than it used to be. Maybe not perfect.
So in other words, they're sort of cheating then, right, Peter?
Well, you know, if it works, it works. You know, and actually that makes me think, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why people like Comfy UI, where you have that pipeline thing, because you have to like set up, you know, the right kind of generation in a pipeline. So, Claire, for me, I'm the same as Kenneth. Blob means a chunk of data, undifferentiated data. So I don't recognize it in Midjourney terms. I have another Midjourney thing to remind people about, which is play with your aspect ratio. Wonder this is actually maybe a good one. But the difference between wide, like 2:1, and tall, like, and then mostly square, almost square. Oops. And then square, I guess. It's surprisingly responsive to the aspect ratio. It tries really hard to fit it tries to make a really good subject given the aspect ratio you gave it. So like the framing of this eye is all about this, you know, super wide. This is 2:1, which is a little bit wider than 16:9. It framed it really well, right? And even these eyes, these sets of eyes, I don't know if I don't know if I should, I got too much eyes in here. So same thing here, this one's framed so that the tall thing works. It figured out how to fit a face into there, and it figured out, well, I want to zoom in on the eye, so we're going to give up the face, but I'm going to pick a good part of the face. It's really responsive to aspect ratio. So then the trick is to take this and change it so it's square. And you can put that either way. This is the obvious way to do this one. So you get it to generate at a certain aspect ratio, and then you change the aspect ratio on it, and you get all kinds of cool effects. The other thing that this aspect ratio change is essentially outpainting, you know, what we used to call outpainting. It is dramatically good. It blows me away every time I do some kind of outpainting thing, and it can be super creative with what it outpaints, and also it's perfect, you know. Unlike, say, Photoshop, not to name names. Let's do a cool trick here. A thing that I like to do nowadays is to pick an obscure part of an image and then get it to generate. This is not the prettiest one, but I've got a new thing where it's like you paint out everything except a tiny bit of it. So instead of painting out the background, you paint out the subject, and let it, you know, and let it go to town. I'm actually going to paint out all the sky too.
Peter, I missed
Yes.
how you got to that fine control aspect ratio with the display and everything.
Are you on the web yet?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back and check it out. It was just change aspect ratio right here. Does that make sense?
Plain as the nose on my face.
Not that, I mean, I don't, I mean, I've been up and down and inside and outside of all these controls. So, and I don't, there are some things I still don't like do very well, but that one I do a lot. So I know right where it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a super fun thing to do. The other thing is, and a thing that I didn't do here, is you can change the prompt. So maybe we should go back and, but so there's that, here's the thing that doesn't change. And look how different the sky is there. I really like that. Sometimes it does something stupid, but a lot of times it does something amazing. You can, if you click rerun here, it'll use the same mask and just do it again. Let's do the same thing, but change the prompt too. This has the, it keeps the prompt, or it keeps the mask, which is, yeah, I think it's mostly good. I'm gonna just say a fortress in the desert. Oh, with the storm rolling in, I guess. So I probably should have changed the prompt on there. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. I guess I'm more used to random prompts too, and then with a random prompt, you don't really have to change it. I really love it when it does a completely different subject like this. So then, of course, the thing to do is to paint out the background and see where we get. Sorry for my dog. Another thing that took me a while, it's super obvious once you learn it, but a thing that took me a while to learn was to be very careful to paint everything out. Everything that you don't want. And like if you just leave a little bit, like, well, this is not a good example, but if you leave a little bit of a detail, it gloms onto the detail and feels obliged to make sure that that detail fits in, and it's probably gonna, not do what you want. I am really used to random prompts, so you don't want to keep that prompt, I don't think.
Just use a period.
Yeah, I learned that from you, Claire, and I do that a lot. I wonder if I could. I wonder if I can search my. I wonder if it does. It'll do that. Yeah, it doesn't. Claire said just don't use any prompt. Just use a dot and a period. And definitely that's useful. But so we went from this little part to getting a cool character, and then we can put the cool character on different backgrounds. There you go. And then any of these, of course, you hit the good one, you hit the one that you like, and you tell it to do very strong, and see if you get something even different. So that is kind of how I burn through my 30 hours and then some. But it's pretty easy. I mean, it's super fast. Maybe some of these are weird. Even even something like this is not the worst thing in the world. Like that image is not particularly useful, but that one might be. Um, So it took me, it's funny, it took me a while to get used to like to get used to throwing away like 80 or 90% of an image, but now I really like it. So it was a hard thing to learn to do, but you know, once it's a rewarding thing to do. So these are variations from that one with the big red sun. So it's cool to like get going somewhere and then, you know, keep going in the direction that you didn't think you were going, but now you are. I don't know which one of these space raccoons is a good one.
How did you get those
Yeah.
different backgrounds? That's incredible.
Um, just painting stuff out. Does that answer your question or?
You just paint it out and see what happens?
Yeah. So so to replay that one a little bit, right here is the, I guess if I go through this, so you can see the fixed part of this one, right? It's just this. And for better or for worse, I didn't change the prompt. So it's still deserty and all that kind of stuff. But I got this strange fellow, and then I just painted that one out. Like that. I think there's a skunk in the neighborhood. It's my dog's problem. So I've got I've got long strings of those where I just keep, you know, painting out like the whole thing that I got from the last one. You know, there's one little detail that's cool. I'll just keep painting and painting out and see what I get. I do have chaos set reasonably high. I've got it set at 50. That might be a lot more boring if I didn't have it set high, but I have a soft spot for a lot of chaos. So these are nothing special, but at least you can see that we got a weird you know, we took this weird image, which is just kind of useless, and made it more useful, not particularly interesting, but it also does a great job at it does a great job of, well, pretty great job. It does a amazingly good job, more than I think it should be able to match even like a mirror image like that. Matching your eyes across is pretty awesome. Yeah, let's see what we got out of. So, you know, back in the history of these images is that first Desert Fortress thing. Desert Fortress, then we got the raccoon on the Desert Fortress, then we got the raccoon on a space background. Now we just have that space background from over here. So I don't know that that's the best example of it, but kind of shows you how dramatically you can just keep going, which I think is a lot of fun. Thanks, folks. Thanks for bearing with me through Midjourney and also my little dog barking at a skunk.
Well,
You asked
thanks
if
a
anyone
lot.
had any show and tell. I just stuck a couple, one of which I talked about here earlier, and the other of which is it didn't come out the way I wanted it to, but it's awfully funny in the context of that was supposed to be reasons to hate AI, your mom's AI cat. So
Thanks for
Uh,
hosting this, Pete. It's always, it's
Yeah,
really
you're
great.
welcome.
I really appreciate them, and I'll kind of try to pop in every other one at least. When I can
Yeah.
work it into my work.
Sounds good. Thanks for being
Much
here, Dan.
appreciated.
I'll
Take
see
care.
if I can dig my way through a stable AI local.
Yeah, be interesting to hear you report out. So we'll be back on the 16th, and then maybe another one that week, maybe not. We'll see.
Have a good trip.
Thanks all.
Bye,
Yeah,
guys.
have a
Thank you,
good,
Pete.
have a good trip. Thank you.
Thanks.
It was great.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Same here. Thanks.
care all.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.